Hey YouTube! So I just got back from Costa Rica a few days ago. I wanted to make a video that would show you guys what an amazing adventure this trip was for me. There are so many cool things that I got to see and that I got to do. I got to sand in the Caribbean Ocean and in the Pacific on the same day within a few hours of each other. I saw monkeys and sloths and tons of iguanas. It was really an amazing experience, but I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me talk about this for 5 hours, so I made a list of the highlights of the trip for me. So I want to share the wonderful experiences that I had in Costa Rica with you. So going to Costa Rica, I went with one of my best friends, Kayla, and I really didn't know any of the other people who are going very well, and it made me really nervous because I'm not a really outgoing person. I'm not the type of person to go up and start talking to people by myself. The first week that we were there, Kayla and I were staying in a room with 4 other girls who I didn't really know very well. We ended up becoming really close really fast because we spent every day together. I met all of these girls in grade 8, but I never got to know them very well until this trip. And I guess I always assumed that we wouldn't get along very well. The main point from that I learned was that people can change over time. And I know I've changed so much as well. So it was really silly of me to think that it would be difficult to get along with these people. Part of the trip involved working at a school. We spent a lot of time working with the students, teaching them lessons or playing games with them during recesses. And despite the fact that none of us spoke any Spanish and none of them spoke English, we still managed to communicate. It was a really interesting thing to see how you could communicate the idea of friendship without any of us speaking each other's language. We still had an understanding at the end of the 5 days that we were there that all of us were going to be sad to leave because we had created some sort of a bond with these kids despite the fact that we couldn't actually talk to them. Another thing that I found really amazing was how self-sufficient a lot of the areas of Costa Rica are. For example, we went to a coffee plantation, and at the coffee plantation they have really strong beliefs about having no waste. So every process that the coffee goes through at this plantation, they find a way to make it as clean as possible for the environment and to create the least amount of waste, which was really, really cool. And they had a lot of really amazing ways of doing this. They didn't use pesticides because what they did instead is they had other fruit plants and trees grown around the coffee plants. Instead of putting chemicals on their plants, the birds would just be distracted by the bigger fruit. So they just had a lot of really clever ways of making things more sustainable. That was something that I really enjoyed. The next thing is something that I found extremely inspiring. One of the afternoons we went to a women's shelter in La Carpio, and there we met up with the head of the organization that we were working with. She took us into La Carpio, which is the poorest part of Costa Rica. It's just outside of San Jose. The majority of the structures in this area have just been made up of scrap metal. They're so proud of what they do have. The whole area for me was really inspiring, but there were 2 things in particular at this place that really touched my heart. The first one was this woman's home. It might not look like much, but the owner of this home is a woman who was abused by her husband for years. And finally one day she decided that enough was enough, and she kicked him out of the house. And that day she vowed to herself that she was going to have the nicest home in all of La Carpio with the best view. She's literally been building her house brick by brick and has been building this up for the past 5 years. This is actually what her view is going to be when she's done the house. She was so passionate about trying to get this amazing place for her family to live that slowly, as she built everything up, she managed to make it a reality. So for me to see that, I just found it so inspiring. And then the second thing in La Carpio that I thought was amazing was in the schoolroom that we went to. It's a really big deal for La Carpio to have a good education system, because the idea there is that if there's good education for the young generation, those kids will grow up wanting more for themselves. So these were some drawings that were put up around the schoolroom. Basically, the students were asked to make drawings about their dreams for the future. The idea with this project was to instill a sort of ambition in the students. The teacher's idea is that if these students are given something to dream about and something to work towards, they have a higher chance of actually being successful and completing these things. It was really inspiring to see what all of these kids what their dreams were. Going to Costa Rica was a really amazing opportunity for me. I was given the opportunity to appreciate what I have so much more than I did before, And I was also inspired by so many of the stories that I heard about while I was there and by the amazing people that I met. I hope that what I learned on this trip stays with me for a really long time because it really was an amazing experience. Things may have got a little bit cheesy there at the end, but I hope you enjoyed hearing about my trip to Costa Rica, and I will see you in another video.